Oh, let's straighten this out. Alright, guys. What's up? So, it's been a while since I've actually just kind of like sat down and looked at my webcam and talked to you guys. But there's a lot of heat going around. My cat just opened my door. There's a lot of heat going around Intel right now for Raptor Lake issues. And I kind of wanted to chuck in my thoughts about this and like my opinions. Not that it really matters. This is usually kind of the thing that I post on like TikTok, but I wanted to talk about it on here today because I just wanted to get it would have been easier to just record on my computer. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 13900K exclusively because that's what I have my experience with it, having a very slightly degraded chip, and what kind of things that I've experienced so far and how I've decided to fix it. I want to start by saying that before I went to Alder Lake at all, to any like P&E core CPUs, so that being 12th gen and above, so like the 12600K, 12400, you know, anything 12th gen and above, Z690, Z70, I was on X299. I had an i9-7940X, which if you don't know is a 14 core 28 thread CPU. We'll actually pull up the, so this is the i9-7940X. This is the official specs for it. Now my i9-7940X I exclusively ran at around 4.4, 4.5 gigahertz all core overclocked. So it was a pretty hefty CPU, pulled anywhere from 300 to 350 watts. So this thing pulled some power. It ran everything I needed it to. It wasn't, you know, and I had plenty of cores for video editing, rendering, streaming. I mean, pretty much anything that I could want, I had an amazing amount of cores for. I only really upgraded because of the hype around it and because Windows 11 support. So the 7940X was technically Skylake X, I do believe, or Kaby Lake X. It was one of those two. And maybe it says it right here. Maybe I'm just blind. Well, no, I do believe it was Kaby Lake X or Skylake X. But either way, it didn't officially support Windows 11. Now, this wasn't a huge deal for me at the time, but I kind of wanted something more up-to-date and something a little more efficient. So eventually I bought an ASRock Z690 board and a 12700K, and I moved on to that. Now, the reason that I'm telling you guys this is because when I was on X299, I knew when I bought that platform, I went from X99 to X299. And before X99, I had a Z77 motherboard, and I ran a 4770K that was overclocked as well to 4.2 gigahertz. Now, even when I went to X99, I knew something. I knew I wasn't going to get the same or better gaming performance doing this. I had a 5820K, and I would gladly say that in most scenarios, my 4770K would have been faster. Now, the reason we're saying this and the reason I'm talking about this, I'm not just trying to talk everybody's ear off, because I want everybody to realize that when you're running a 13900K or a 14900K, they're fast. Okay, they are the fastest. Well, were the fastest gaming CPUs that you could get. But when you buy CPUs like this, like even with the X299 platform, you have to realize something. These are not gaming CPUs, guys. Intel did away with the HEDT platform. These CPUs were not directed right at gamers. If you're just playing games, an i5 or an i7 would be perfect. An i5 especially, because you can take an i5 and easily overclock it to get better gaming performance. Equivalent or better, probably equivalent to like a 14700K or 14900K. Now, if you look up performance benchmarks between a 14700K and a 14900K, the gap is not big. It's maybe 1 to 5 FPS depending on the game. The gap is not massive at all. But what you are getting with an i9 is more cores, more PCIe lanes, stuff like that. Like, you're not getting extra gaming performance. That's not what you're paying for. Okay, so let's take this for example, this comparison between a 14700K on the right and a 14900K on the left. You can see the boost frequency is different, sure. Here's the thing, guys. You're not going to hit that frequency with a 14900K unless you have, like, extreme cooling, okay? There was a reason that these chips were failing, because they were applying so much voltage to these chips and so much amperage and just raw power that they were literally cooking themselves, okay? And that's where we're going to get to what I'm talking about today. And this is just my opinion, guys. This is not, like, I'm not trying to bounce anybody or nothing for this. And I wasn't comparing Raptor Lake to X299. That is not a direct comparison. Raptor Lake is way more efficient and way better if you're just gaming. I do still like X299 as like an HEDT platform. But unfortunately, when it comes to terms of just productivity and gaming in general, usually pretty much any Raptor Lake i9 or even i7 is going to outperform even like a 10980 XE. So this is my main system here. You can see I got everything pulled up. I got my memory. It's 64 gigs of DDR5 at 6,000 megahertz and a 13900K running at stock clocks at the Intel default settings. Please note that the Intel default settings, 253 watt default. You can see it here. This is on the most recent microcode update as well, and an RTX 4080 Super. So the reason that I'm showing you guys this is because I wanted to talk about what I've done to completely stop my 13900K from overheating and from just cooking itself in general, because my chip is slightly degraded, okay? It has it. Okay, sure, you can argue that you are spending $500 to $600 on a 13900K expecting to get that speed. And like I said, this is just my opinion. People used to buy i9 10980 XEs and 7980 XEs and 99 whatever X299 HEDT chips. They used to buy them exclusively for gaming, but that's not what they were for. Obviously, you can game on them. Yes, they are capable of gaming, and they can overclock great to run games. I have a friend who runs an i9 7940X and games on it all the time. And to my knowledge, it runs great. But he also has a pretty extreme custom loop, and I do believe he runs his 7980 XE at 4.8, 4.9 all cores, somewhere around there, which is insane. He gets insane performance out of that thing. I know he does. But that's not what all users want to have to do. Like me, for example, I really don't like, I like overclocking, but I don't want to have to depend on pushing 450 watts into my CPU just to get good performance. I would much rather my CPU draw lower power and lose a few extra frames. It's whatever. Now, I do play at 1440p 240 hertz. And like I said, you guys can see here, I'm running the stock Intel default settings. Now, what does this mean? This basically means that under load, and I'm going to show you guys here, we will, really quick, let's switch over. So we're going to run Cinebench R23 at the stock settings. And you guys can watch my max P-core and E-core frequencies here, as well as my temperatures, my wattage, and everything. So you see we can hit 5 gigahertz on all P cores, 3.8 on all E cores. Here's our final score. Not great. This is also normal priority. Usually when I'm trying to go for a good run, I run it at high priority. I kind of cheat a little bit. But you guys can see here, this is where our frequencies were on our run. 5 gigahertz. But you can also see we definitely can go higher than that. See, right here we were around 5.3 gigahertz. Now the reason for this is because when you're running all those cores under load like that, you don't have the power to boost all of those cores to 5.5, 5.8 gigahertz, which is fine. That's okay. Because if you're going to be running your CPU under a sustained load like that anyways, it's not going to matter. Like, to me, that extra 500 or 800 megahertz is not going to make a substantial difference if I'm, say, rendering a video and I'm going to have to wait an hour or two anyways. Like, I'm not going to be sitting there like, oh my god, when is this going to be done? I'm going to fucking pull up a movie and I'm going to watch it, and it'll probably be done when I'm done watching the movie. But for gaming, it's a little different, and I'll show you guys what I mean. So here we're going to pull up a game really quick. Okay, so you can see here we're in Doom Eternal, and what I've done is I've pulled up all the for all my frequencies for my CPU. So we're going to run a game a little bit. We're not going to don't take this as like a skill test or nothing. Not meant to be playing this seriously. Oh yeah, I forgot we were right in the middle of this fight with the boss. We're gonna skip this. I don't. Oh, okay. All right. So now that we're done with that, you can see our FPS. I just want to mention, like I said, 1440p, ray traced, max settings. I'm gaming like how I normally would game. I'll even turn DLSS on just so we can push out that extra FPS. Not that we really need it, but we'll might make the CPU work a little harder here. So you can see what our turbo speeds are looking like here, what we're boosting to under the 253 watt setting. Now guys, the point that I'm trying to make here is, there we go. The point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is this is completely playable. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you buy... Okay, so let's revert back to what I said about X299 for a second. If you bought one of those CPUs just to game on it and got disappointed because you weren't getting as good a performance as, say, your friend with, let's say a 10900K, there was a reason for that. It's because you bought a CPU that wasn't meant for gaming. It was meant for productivity. Like I said in the past, these CPUs were not made just for gaming. Of course, Intel is a little scummy when they advertise them as the fastest gaming CPUs available, because I know they did that. But that's not what they were for. That's not what they were intended for. You don't load 32 threads onto a CPU and call it a gaming CPU. You don't need that many cores or threads for gaming. That's not how that works. Let me just kill this guy here. You can see our temperatures, and I'm pretty sure it even shows my power, my wattage for my CPU. You can see my total system power draw for both components. The CPU, we're pulling around 136 watts or so. So, like I was trying to say, in my honest opinion, like, if you bought an i9 for gaming, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not what they were intended for. This is just my opinion, but if you bought a $600 CPU and you thought, I'm going to just play games on it, I hate to let you down, but that's not what they were made for. I'm going to get flacked a lot for this, but a lot of people will also understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying, because I know a lot of people that also bought X299 CPUs that wanted them just for gaming and got disappointed when their games did not run as good as, they say, a 10900K, because the 10980XE MSRP'd for $1,000. Okay, that was a $1,000 chip when it came out, not to mention the cost of an X299 board. And if you were smart, you were going to be running 4 sticks or more of DDR4, preferably 8, because that's how you're going to get the most performances from quad channel memory. And, you know, you're going to spend way more money on that. So I just wanted to really quick reinforce my point on what I was trying to say, mostly to do with price. You can see here, $399 for a 14700K. I wouldn't say that's reasonable, because these CPUs, and i7 used to be a lot cheaper, but that's still a good price. A i9 14900K, about $600. You're paying $200 more. You got to factor in tax and everything. And now, of course, you can go with the KF SKUs of these chips and get a significant, well, sometimes significant discount. But I think having integrated graphics is a good idea for like troubleshooting and stuff, or even just for other things in general. But guys, we're basically reverting back to the HEDT days, except we have no official HEDT platform. So we no longer have X299. Sure, you have the Xeon processors. I wouldn't even consider that HEDT, though. That's more like workstation server stuff. But guys, if you're just gaming, you're just going to be playing games. That's all you're going to be doing. Don't buy a 14900K or a 13900K. You don't need it. I have a friend with an i5 14600K and a 7980 or a 7900 XTX. My Red Devil card that I gave to him that he has. He runs games fine. He runs everything just fine. Perfect at 1440p ultra wide. You can see here, we'll do the 14600K. Even this is just fine for gaming. Look, I know I'm a smaller YouTuber, so a lot of you people are probably like, oh, it doesn't matter what he's saying. But I'm telling you, I've been like gaming on PC since 2012, dude. And I've been like passionate about PC hardware pretty much since then. And I've spent the past 12 years learning and growing and keeping up with each generation as they've went. And some of the things that I've learned is insane. I was there through Ivy Bridge, through Intel's TikTok cycle. I was there to watch the absolute crapshoot that was 11th gen CPUs. So basically, like I was saying, we're pretty much back to the consumer versus HEDT platform. Your 14900K, those I'm going to consider those HEDT CPUs, even though they're not. They're not officially HEDT CPUs. Let's clarify that right now. They're not. That is not an HEDT platform. That is still a consumer platform. But these are not consumer CPUs. These are workstation CPUs. If you need a lot of cores, that's what it's there for. With a 14600K, you're going to get less power draw. You're going to get less heat. But you're going to get within margin of error gaming performance. Unless you're still gaming at 1080p, which if you are, still a 14700K is going to be just fine for that. But modern CPUs can push 1080p frame rates above and beyond anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if you're not editing videos, rendering videos, or doing virtual machines, pretty much anything along those lines, you don't need an i9 anymore. These are consumer high-end desktop CPUs. I'm going to call them that. Consumer high-end desktop. Nobody needs to go out and spend $600 for a gaming CPU. I'm not going to name any names, but we have a buddy that we know, and every generation or so, he just goes out and spends $4,000 on a PC. And we've tried telling him, I don't know how many times, at least my buddy has tried telling him that you don't need to spend that kind of money to get a good gaming performance, like a good gaming experience. In this generation, I'm sure he probably ended up regretting it, because I am almost positive his CPU has probably degraded because he had a 14900K. And I'm almost positive that thing's probably taking a crap. He's been having like crashing and instability issues from the last time I've spoke to him. And that's probably why. I'm going to take a fat guess and say that CPU is probably the culprit. Because he, as far as to my knowledge, does run a custom loop. But even with a custom loop, guys, these chips are still pulling upwards of 400 watts. They're still like cooking themselves. It doesn't matter. Now, the microcode update fixed a little bit of issues for me. It let me run my CPU better. But I have been noticing that there is still, at idle, some weird voltage behavior. Like even right now, my P-core voltage is at 1.3 volts. Between 1.3 and 1.4. But yeah, guys, that's really all I wanted to say. I can make another video and go more in-depth with this and talk about it. But like, I didn't really have a whole lot to say other than this whole video, by the way, is meant to be educational at the same time, but also state my opinion on the whole 13th and 14th gen like Raptor Lake issues, because it's gonna make me sound super mean. But in my opinion, if you bought a $600 CPU just expecting to only play games on it, that's your own fault. you screwed yourself. Like this is something that I kind of foresaw coming. I saw this coming as soon as I realized that Intel put the 14900K at like a 6 gigahertz boost. Not that you're ever really gonna hit 6 gigahertz on that CPU, but I saw that being a problem as soon as I saw that CPU released. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've made a video like this where I've just sat down and chatted. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm sure I'm going to get absolutely cooked by a lot of people for this. A lot of people probably aren't going to like me saying this. But that's just my opinion. That's how I feel about it. If you bought an i9 and like you're mad because it's not, you're having to run at the Intel default settings and it's not boosting. That's because the Intel default settings is the Intel default for that chip, guys. That is what Intel set that chip to run it. That's why it's called Intel default settings. That's why I'm running it at the Intel default settings and it's running how it's supposed to. So I'm not mad because I'm still getting great gaming performance, good enough to do exactly what I want. But also when I render a video, my CPU's not pulling 400 watts and fucking cooking itself, guys. I mean, like, come on. Don't be crazy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and a subscribe. And maybe I'll make more videos talking about content like this because I really enjoy talking about this stuff. And sometimes I don't always know what I'm trying to say on a whim when I'm trying to say it. But I think I did a pretty good job of getting my point across this time. So yeah, if you guys enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe, guys. It would mean a lot to me. I'm really trying to focus on posting more content here lately, but it has been rough. Just that time of the year, it's hot out, and I get demotivated easily. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Be prepared for another video soon. Please subscribe, leave a like. It would mean a lot to me, and I'd love to see my channel grow with you guys so I can release more content like this and keep entertaining you guys. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Peace.